education person. So,
Thank you. Mr. Cuddy.
Too many to name, but one that comes to mind. A lot of people know her as Miss Weddington. A lot of people called her Jenny Weddington. She was my 8th grade English teacher at Vance Junior High, and she took a young, fair-skinned boy and turned him into a farmer for 2 summers in a row, baling hay, cleaning out her barns, taking care of her horses. But what she was doing that whole time that I didn't realize then, but I realize now, and as I've become an adult, she instilled in me a hard work ethic. And she instilled in me a hard work ethic that has allowed me to be a good student in college, to be a great father, to be a great husband, which I hope my wife would say, but also to be a hard worker when it comes to running a business every day. And if elected to the school board, I can promise you I will take that work ethic that she instilled in me a long time ago and use it every day as a member of the school board and do my very best to do the best for this community and for our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. We have time, I think, for 2 more questions. This will be Mr. Linkus first. If elected, what would you consider to be your greatest accomplishment during your tenure? How do you plan to reach this goal?
If I was elected to the position, there's a few things that I would like to accomplish, and we've touched on them a little bit already. I would like to grow the CTE program a little bit more because I want those students to be prepared to go straight in the workforce. And like I said before, it's those are our future, the students, and those are our future workers. And so we want them to learn the trade, if it's being an electrician or a welder or so on. We want them to grow that. Also, I would love to see, and this all comes down to some logistics and funding, the big thing funding, but I'd love to see SROs in all the schools. I want the students to feel safe. I want the teachers to feel safe. And that's some big things that I would like to have happen, and that comes down with funding. And also, I would say to the education savings account as well, that's something I'll continue to fight for. I think, anytime you can take the funds from public education to give it to private education, that's something I will continue to fight and contact my legislators for.
Thank you. Mr. Slaughter?
Also, against the vouchers as well, I would do whatever I can to reach out to whomever I can. But my biggest goal would be the school resource officers, making sure they're in there, and of course you get that through the funding. Also include increasing the attendance. I like the new program that's going on there now, which will also increase the graduation rate. So if I'm elected, I'd like to at least accomplish those goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Welch?
the blessing or the virtue of being on the board already, my answer is not going to be in a specific item or agenda, although they're very important. But I think you've already seen in my conversation that the primary importance for me is the relationship that's ongoing between City Council, between our county commissioners, between our Board of Education. So I think if at the end of if I understood the question is what would I have hoped at the end of the 4 years was primary, would be that ongoing great relationship that allowed us to accomplish many different things. You're going to hear me say this again in a few minutes. The primary job of a Board of Education person is to be the advocate for students. And sure, that can come with a lot of different specific items, a new school, technology, and so forth, but that is accomplished in relationship with others through funding, through planning, and so forth. So if the fact that I finished my 4 years and my name was not attached to any building, that's fine, as long as it was good relationships with those who made changes.
Thank you. Mr. Cuddy?
A couple things real quick. One, it's got to be security. I may be the only one up here who has received a text from their daughter says, "Dad, we're in a code red." That's happened twice this year at Tennessee High. And I got that text twice this year. And as a parent, you can't believe what it feels like in your heart to know that they're scared. So that's got to be the number one thing that I would hope to get pushed through is security officers at all the schools and better security entrances at all the doors in all the schools. And then second of all, I still think one of my biggest things is to create a good open dialogue with the teachers. I know I've been saying teachers a lot tonight, but they are the backbone of our school system. Without our teachers, we have nothing. And so I want to make sure that we have that open dialogue, and if I get elected, I want to make sure in those 4 years that they can say, wow, we have never had this type of cooperation and openness with our current school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Darnell?
Again, I think I would like to see more trade classes offered. Like I said, with my 2 teenagers, they want to pursue a career that's not the traditional path with a college or university. Another thing would be to fight for the public school vouchers to not pass, because that would be one devastating issue that would affect this area, I think, in a great amount, because right now with that, it's only going to really affect like 2 or 3 counties when it first starts. But for us as taxpayers, we're going to be like funding that, and then they're planning on rolling that out to other schools. And also, I think different things that we could do is look at social media and some of the stuff that they're doing. Like if you see online, there's a bunch of kids like the food closet, like a janitor at one of the schools had created for kids that are poverty stricken. Stuff like that is just simple stuff that we can include in our schools that would make it better for everyone. Even having clothes for kids that like have accidents and stuff, because that would be a huge embarrassing issue. Instead of calling their parents, they can fix that right at the class. Thanks.
Thank you. I know this may disappoint you all, but this will be the last question of the evening. And Mr. Slaughter, you'll begin this question. In the Tennessee General Assembly this year, there is a strong push for elected versus appointed directors of schools. Do you prefer elected or appointed director of school administrators, and why?
I like the current situation. I like that. I'm not for the election at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Welch?
I'm also in favor of the appointed, not the elected. And the primary reason of that is when you're an elected official, you have to spend an inordinate amount of time guaranteeing that you'll be elected again. And I don't think that's a job of a superintendent that's brought in for the purpose of running a school system, is to spend a majority of their time or a significant amount of their time running an election process. I don't think that makes them more accountable to the community for which they're serving and working. And so I'm opposed to that, and like the current system we have where the school board is responsible for the hiring of and making that director or superintendent, depending on which system you're in, be responsible then to the community directly.
Thank you. Mr. Cuddy?
David, I'm glad to say I agree with you. I get to finally say that. Hey, I'm against elected. I think it needs to be appointed. You know, that's one of the main objectives of being on the school board, is to review Dr. Lilly, the superintendent, whoever it may be, each year, and to make sure that he is hitting the goals that have been set in place by the current school board. That's why we are elected officials. You guys are electing us and entrusting us to make sure we are hiring and appointing the best administrators that we can to make sure our schools are running the way they need to be ran, and to make sure our schools have everything that they have. And I also want to go back and touch base. I am a huge proponent of the CTE program. Again, I'm so thankful for Ms. Penley for the job she's doing. I think it's a wonderful, and also I'm very proud of our online virtual school that is ran by Ms. Whedon, and it is a school that many students in the state of Tennessee enroll through Bristol, Tennessee, and it's a very nice revenue stream for the school system that we get from the virtual school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Darnell?
Okay. I guess I'm going to have to be the odd one out here and disagree with Mr. Welch there. I think that the superintendent should be elected. I feel that if you're a good superintendent, you don't have to be worrying about running a successful campaign the next time, because if you're doing your job and you're good at it, then the people in the schools and your community will know that you're doing a great job. I think the school board should be elected to oversee that they are doing a good job and make sure that they maintain all the qualifications that they need to do it. But I think we, the people, should be able to decide who we have as our superintendent.
Thank you. Mr. Linkus?
I have to say that I disagree with Mr. Darnell here, but that, you know, it should be appointed. You know, that's the position, like Eric Cuddy said, it's the position of the board to be able to elect, or not elect, to appoint the director of schools. and make sure they are, they're qualified. You want to get a qualified candidate, and with the elected, you might not get a qualified one that can best be the representation for our school system. And yes, we as a school board have to hold that director accountable. And so, yes, I think it's the position of the school board to be the ones that elect, or to appoint that director, and that's my position.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the question portion tonight, gentlemen. Now we're going to go into closing statements. Mr. Welch, you'll begin. You get 2 minutes each. We'll begin with you. Same protocol, 1 minute, 40 seconds with green light, 20 seconds on yellow light, then to red. So, Mr. Welch.
Humorously, I said earlier that I'd be glad to yield any of this time, but I will share that the primary position, responsibility of a Board of Education person is to be an advocate for students, teachers, administrators, and then families. The job of the administration is to run your system. And so the primary job that a school board person has is policy and advocacy. And the humorous part about, for me, having served now 2 terms, on the first, I felt like the first 4 years, it took me to come to speed to understand what are the primary tasks of the Board of Education person, as well as the language of education. I think the only industry that uses more acronyms than education is military. But that's part of the learning. And so for me in this position, why would I want to serve a 3rd term, another 4 years, is that I feel like I've been trained, educated, and now I'm making responsible decisions in advocacy and relationship for our school system, for the administrators, as well as for our teachers and students. And so I'm grateful, if elected, to serve for that capacity for another 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Cuddy.
Thank you. I want to read some of this. I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. I would like to first, Beth, thank you and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this. And I also want to thank our great community who has given me great support so far in this campaign. My slogan for my campaign from the get-go has been our children, our community, and our future. 30 years ago, I was one of those students. My father died when I was 10 years old, which left my mom as a single working mom working 2 jobs. She worked hard, I worked hard, but most importantly, I had teachers that believed in me, who developed my character, and who gave me opportunities for my future. I want to serve the children of our community and the educators of our community so that I can give back a fraction of what was given to me as a young man. I want students, parents, and educators to know they have someone serving on their school board who will always have a listening ear to the needs of our community and our schools. Our teachers need to see their school board members coming and learning about the unique needs of each classroom and each school. They need to see our school board members coming to the everyday events, such as eating lunch with a group of students or stopping by the playground and jumping into a game of Foursquare. It just doesn't need to be about attending the big events. One thing I've been told consistently by teachers is they don't see or hear from their school board enough. I want to know firsthand how I can serve our community. And if elected, I promise you that is what I will do. I love Bristol, Tennessee. I want to see our students have every opportunity to learn, grow, and stay in this great city. If elected, I will work every day, I promise you, for our children, our teachers, our community, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donnell.
Okay. Again, I'd like to start out by thanking everyone for attending and the Bristol Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. Like I said, I'm not originally from Bristol, but I fell in love with the people and the city. I proudly call Bristol my home now, and I love watching it grow. I do volunteer for a lot of extracurricular activities as a band parent and support many volunteer programs. And as a potential candidate for the Board of Education, I would like to use the experiences from my career to offer a fresh insight to the board. I believe that our school board plays a vital role in our community, and I like to see more involvement. I want our residents to show up to the meetings and offer their valuable opinions. I think that's one of the biggest issues, is that whenever they do have school board meetings, not many people show up, and everyone has their opinion, so come voice it. We'd like to hear it. And I want to focus on aligning standards, curriculum, assessments, and policies. I think we should target professional development and work on sustaining these improvement efforts. I think we need to work on allocating resources strategically to support a quality institution instead of school programs having to focus a majority of their time on fundraising in order to afford the basics. I think these are a few reasons I'm running for school board, for the love of the community and to help inspire growth. We are on a good track with the reconstruction of a safer and updated middle school with Vance. I think we should continue to keep the focus on our children and our educators. And my name is Jimmy Darnell, and I'm asking for your vote to be a member of our proud Board of Education. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Linkus.
First, I would like to thank the Chamber for putting this event on. It's a great event, and also all the sponsors as well to help make this event happen. And I also appreciate all those that came out and support here in the building, and also via live stream or other media methods. But you know, what we're here for is the students and the educators, and that's my passion. Is I want what's best for the students, and I want them to succeed not only in the school but also out of the school, in life. And that's what it comes down to, is preparing those students the best. And it comes, and also talking what Dave said, is advocating. That's a big thing about it. Being a school board member is advocating for the school system. And so, and with that, when you prepare them for life and everything, that goes back to where you talked about the CTE and program. Continue to build that, because I do think that's an area to focus on. And then also, I mentioned before about the SROs. I want the schools to feel safe, and that's a big thing. But I've been on the school board for a little over a year and a half now. Loved every minute of it. I have some accomplishments. We got the school board, the middle school happening. It's happening now. That's huge for the community. I mean, it's great for the students. It could draw more students in the area. It's huge. And that school is built with safety in mind as well, and that's a huge thing. And then not only that, I listen to the needs of the parents and the teachers as well. For example, I had a few parents and teachers reach out to me regarding the need for guidance counselors in the schools, and all the schools. And that's something I listened to and talked to Dr. Little about. And you know what happened? This school year, we have guidance counselors in all the schools because there was a need for that. And so I do want y'all to know that the need when I do listen to the needs of the community and the teachers and the parents. And lastly, I'd just like to say that if elected, I would like to say I'd love to have you vote, but if elected, I will give my 110%, and I will not let you down. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to contact me.
Thank you. And final comments, closing statements, Mr. Slaughter.
Thank you. Thank the Chamber and the sponsors and you folks for coming out. I'm not spending money on my campaign. I'm running my reputation of getting things done. One thing I would always ask, I'm sure this has always happened to everyone, how many people have had their kid come home, their teachers are always asking for money, school's always asking for money. How many people are tired of that? I mean, if you itemize, you could at least get a federal deduction on that, okay? $100, $200, $300, what's it going to cost more to get that? If you look at it too, as far as the SROs, everybody thinks about active shooters, Columbine, things of that variety, but they're also into the bullying part of it too, which has also gone cyber. So if you have someone there, it's a whole lot easier to reach out. Police officers are there for safety, they're not there for teaching. Notwithstanding the actual drugs, and it's just permeating everywhere. But I promise I'll do 100%, have an open ear, open time, reach out, go out, whatever I got to do. Kind of like Governor Frank Clement did with the 20 men from Tennessee. But I appreciate your vote, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Let's give all of these candidates a huge round of applause. As I shared earlier, we greatly appreciate the fact that you are making the sacrifice to run, to step up, to serve the community, and there's obviously a lot of passion at this table up here, so thank you all for that. Good luck to each and every one of you all in the election. Please remember to vote Tuesday, May 21st. Thank you all for coming. We're going to take a 5-minute break and regroup for the City Council candidate forum.
Jimmy, good job, bud. Nice to meet you.
from the chamber. So without further ado, let's get started. Tonight's participants in the City Council Candidate Forum are seated from left to right in the order that they are listed on the official ballot. So I'm going to introduce each of you all before we get started. First, we have David L. Chapman, Malin Luttrell, Danny Lee McDonald, who could not be here with us tonight, Vince Turner, Miles Vance, and Steve Willinger. So again, thank you all for being here. Just for reference, this election cycle for City Council has 2 open seats. Tonight's format will give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves, 1 minute to answer each question, and then 2 minutes at the end for closing remarks. Each candidate will answer every question, but will alternate who answers first. We will start in the same order you are seated, which correlates with how you are listed on the ballot. Any candidate may ask me at any time to repeat the question, and I will gladly do so. Questions will be randomly drawn each time and have not been shared with candidates prior to the evening's forum. All questions were solicited and submitted for the Bristol Chamber of Commerce membership. Our Chamber of Commerce staff, as I mentioned, Amy, will be assisting us with our timing portion of the evening. Candidates, not only in the interest of time, but also out of fairness to each and every one of you, I ask that you note and understand that the time limit for each phase of answers will be strictly enforced. 1 minute per candidate per question. So if you watch for the green will begin when you start answering your question. When you have 20 seconds left, the yellow button will come on, noting that you have 20 seconds, and then the red button when you have finished. When you complete your answer and the red button pops on, if you're still talking, just complete that sentence and then close your statement, please. So after the first person begins, the next phase of questioning, the person to your left will begin that question first, and I'll indicate that as we go along. So timers, are we ready? Timer, I should say, there's one.
Introduction?
Yes, oh, that's right, sorry. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So opening statements, thank you, Mr. Vance. Mr. Chapman will begin the evening with his opening statement. Again, 1 minute, you may begin.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Bristol Chamber of Commerce for hosting us this evening. Everybody here has been thanked numerous times tonight because you're why we're here. We serve at your pleasure. My name's David Chapman. I'm running for... My name's David Chapman. I'm running for Bristol, Tennessee City Council. To tell you a little bit about me first, I served in the Air Force for 6 years on active duty. After my service on active duty, I transitioned to the Air Force Reserve for an additional 3.5 years. I left the Air Force after sustaining a severe back injury. I returned to Bristol, where I decided to raise my family. When I came back, I completed my EMT at Northeast State, where I've served the city of Bristol and its residents in Sullivan County for almost 11 years. I've received numerous commendations for my military service, and I want to bring some of that knowledge back here to the city of Bristol. I'd like to ask for you to vote for me for city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Luttrell.
Good evening. My name is Malin Luttrell, and I'm honored to be here. And I was also very excited to hear the school board nominees talk about manufacturing and their passion for career and technical education. For the past 61 years, I've called Bristol home, and I dearly care about our community. Here's why I'm qualified to become your next member of City Council. Professionally, my experience spans more than 4 decades, spent primarily working in skilled trades and manufacturing. I was at one time an owner of a small electrical contracting business as well. In the manufacturing field, I've held numerous senior level director positions in manufacturing operations, strategic procurement, engineering, and quality. I currently serve on the following boards and commissions: Job Corps Community Relations, Discover Bristol, Bristol, Tennessee Parks and Recreation, and Bristol Baseball Incorporated. I regularly attend the meetings of both Bristol's city councils and have participated in studies and policy discussions alongside both of these bodies. I thoroughly understand the importance of negotiation and governmental relations and the roles they play in a growing, fast-paced global economy.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
Thank you to everyone here tonight, and thank you to the Chamber for having us. I'm Vince Turner. I was born and raised here in Bristol. Been married to my wife Patty for 22 years. We have a daughter, Lauren, who attends Tennessee High School. She's a junior. I've been in the finance industry for the last 24 years. I'm also a small business owner. I'm invested in this city, and I want it to be said that my generation left Bristol better than we found it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vance.
First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And I'd like to take a moment to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. And I'd also like to thank each and every one of you guys here and at home watching. I'm Miles Vance. I'm a lifelong resident of Bristol, Tennessee. I grew up in the public education system. I started at Avoca, I went to Vance, and I graduated at Tennessee High School. I went on to Northeast State to pursue a degree in marketing. Decided that wasn't for me. I got out and got into the workforce. I am married to my beautiful wife, Stephanie, and I have a 1-year-old daughter that I love and cherish, Emma. I'm the Northeast Tennessee Marketing Director for Moe's Southwest Grill. I attend and serve at Real Life Church. I'm an avid sports fan. I love football. I'm working on being your next city councilman, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Willinger.
Good evening, and everybody's already thanked you, so I don't need to go through that. My name is Steve Willinger, and I'm married to Sherry Willinger, sitting right there for 42 years. We just celebrated our 42nd anniversary. We have a daughter, Courtney, and her husband is Gary, and a 4-year-old grandbaby, Zach. I'll show you pictures later. I'm a Vietnam-era veteran, served in the Navy from 65 to 68. And I'll run down through my qualifications for City Council, why I feel you might like me. Sullivan County Networks Board, I was on their board. Bristol Industrial Development Board, SCORE chair for 10 years. Chamber of Commerce ex officio, I was on the United Way Board and an E&A volunteer. Crisis Center Board, Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia Association of Realtors, and the Community Development Advisory Council. I'm also a optimist and a lion, and attend the Geneva Tips. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Now we'll get to the first question. And this question, Mr. Luttrell, you'll have the first answer. Bristol has the strongest tourism draws in the region. How do you think we should support the holistic promotion of these assets? What is the value of promoting our assets as a unified effort instead of through a fractured approach? And let me, before you start, anytime you want me to repeat a question, I'm happy to do so. Please ask.
Okay, I think always that if we don't promote ourselves, no one else is going to. And I think our current staff that we have at the Convention and Business Bureau and Tourism, do a great job. And I think we need to continue on that path. It needs to be supported by the communities, not only Bristol, Tennessee, but as well as Bristol, Virginia. And, we always need to go beyond where we're at today. We've got to reach out farther than what we are.
Thank you. Mr. Turner.
Yeah, I believe that we have to promote what we have here in Bristol, and we have a lot of great things. There is, I think the more we have that are supporting our tourism that we have here, and all we have to offer, the better. We need to just continue doing more and get more people to our city.
Thank you. Mr. Vance.
10 years ago, our downtown was not, it wasn't booming. And now I can say 10 years later, our downtown is booming. So it is detrimental as a city that we continue to push our downtown and push the Bristol, Tennessee region. So I am all in favor of keeping the foot on the gas pedal and showing, marketing our great city and marketing our great downtown to what we have. We've got wonderful music that goes on downtown. We have the wonderful festivals. And I feel like the chamber is the front lines to be able, on both sides of the city, to promote this wonderful town. So I'm all in favor for our chamber to continue promoting downtown and not taking their foot off the gas pedal, because downtown and our region have to be marketed.
Thank you, Mr. Willinger.
We have the CVB and Believe in Bristol and a number of other organizations right here in Bristol. However, our regionally speaking, there are all kinds of other organizations too that promote this area, not necessarily specifically Bristol, but the region itself. So we do need a local voice. I'm totally in agreement with that, but we also have other resources that are helping us to attract more tourism, from hiking and biking and rivers and fishing and those types of things. So I think we're pretty well covered, and there's always more we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman.
Yes, Bristol's my home. I returned here. I love it. This is a great city. We've thrived and flourished over the past few years when I've been here. Bristol has rhythm and roots. We've got a great country music museum. We have to look at it as a regional approach. You know, Johnson City has the Blue Plum Festival. Abingdon has the Highland Festival. These are great attractors to our region. And while we do have to have a strong voice promoting Bristol, we also have to look at it from a regional standpoint as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to question number 2. And Mr. Turner, you'll get the first answer on this. What do you see as the single biggest issue impeding growth in the city of Bristol, Tennessee?
Well, I believe that our city, we have got to have ordinances and policies that are business friendly. There's, and that's not pointing out one specific thing. I'm always the person that, listen, you can always do better. I think our city does a lot of things great right now, but we can always do better. And I believe that we have to have the policies and ordinances in place that we're not only getting businesses to open, but also of keeping those businesses open.
Thank you. Mr. Vance.
I think there's a wide variety of things, but I feel like workforce development is going to bring more industry into this town. I feel like with the school board, what they're wanting to go for with the CTE programs, that is one of the biggest stepping stones that we will have in bringing more industry into Bristol. It is also being a community that is open to developers and saying, you know, being welcoming. And if that means coming into the city and working with our chamber and then working with our council to bring their industry into Bristol, there's 3 factors, I believe. It is the workforce, our schools, and our subdivisions. We've got a lot of older subdivisions in Bristol, and we've got a lot of housing in Bristol that is older. And I feel as if we could work on those 3 components, I feel like industry will come to Bristol. It's going to take a good workforce, it's going to take new subdivisions, and it's going to take our schools being able to teach the programs that these companies want to bring into Bristol.
Thank you. Mr. Willinger.
Repeat that question,
Certainly.
please.
What do you see as the single biggest issue impeding growth in the city of Bristol, Tennessee?
I don't know that there's one. I think that it's a combination of things. I think you expressed a few of them. The jobs here, there's plenty of jobs. It's finding the skilled folks to come in here and work. We know we have the issues of people not being able to pass a drug test or get in there and do that. I mean, that's everything. I think it's this, we don't have skill sets that we really need to fill the jobs that are available. I'm out of the manufacturing world myself, and I've talked to most manufacturers around here, and the challenge comes from skilled workforce, But even bigger than that, and the most common thing I'm hearing about are the soft skills that don't seem to be in place that will, that they're hireable folks.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman?
Yes. I was raised primarily by my grandparents. They taught me that Bristol was a retirement community, and that's what we've become. We've become a retirement community. We need to take a drastic approach and turn the way we look at Bristol around. We don't just need to do better, we need to do our best. And I think the recent expansion at Northeast State was, that's a fantastic step towards building a better future. It's not just getting kids through high school, not just getting them, the trade skills that they need to high school. We need to get, higher education, and we need to get it here locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Luttrell?
I think one thing, there's an impediment we have right now with outside manufacturers looking to come in here, or other businesses as well. Today, there's a job fair that's going on in Bristol, Tennessee. There's over 50 employers that's seeking employees. There's somewhere close to 1,800, 2,000 jobs that are open today. And, some employers that I've talked to myself, they've had trouble finding employees to fill those jobs currently. So until we address those needs, and those needs are, obviously one of them is going to be trying to create an environment that keeps our youth here in the area and not move away, and also trying to re-educate the people that we have here that are looking for work in those sectors. There's sectors of manufacturing, healthcare, there's construction. So there's plenty of jobs available, but we just got to get people educated and thinking that direction. I don't think we want to have that one large employer to come in. Quite honestly, I think if we had someone looking, then they'd be very concerned at what we have.
Thank you. Question number 3. And Mr. Vance, you'll answer this first. Do you support public funding for programs, events, and projects that improve the quality of life for Bristol residents? Why or why not?
I absolutely support that, because I feel like if we have good events and good things going on for the community, then we're going to be a stronger community. I feel like that, if we fund, for an example, a day center for the homeless that want to come in and, get back on track on life and, be, counseled and given the options to get back on track and have a better life. I feel like us as a community, that's going to make us a stronger community. So I am all for us as a city, promoting community programs, promoting things within the city that develops a stronger community, because as a stronger community, we're a better city. So I agree. I do support us helping and funding community events and things to make the city better.
Thank you. Mr. Willinger?
Some of the funding that we've put out there has done a really good job. I think it will continue. The budget calls for more of that. It is community-oriented, and I support that. There are projects maybe that I think have continue to receive funding that maybe they could make it on their own, and we could be looking at other options to help another startup thing, maybe like Rhythm and Roots. Maybe we could use that money to get something else started.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman?
Could you repeat the whole question again?
Certainly. Do you support public funding for programs, events, and projects that improve the quality of life for Bristol residents? Why or why not?
Oh, absolutely. Our downtown is, it's an event center. We have Border Bash, Bike Night, which still attracts a lot of people to our downtown. We have a very thriving downtown that's, their focus is events, arts, Paramount, Theater Bristol. Those are things that we need to fund because they make us better as a city.
Thank you. Mr. Luttrell?
Currently, the city funds a lot of those programs today. I think what we have to be more careful with is that, there's a lot of need out there. And it's, where do you apply those funds first and foremost? There's agencies out there that do a wonderful job. And I think as a community or a city, we have to make sure that, first and foremost, people that are in need, I think we need to make sure that they understand that there's agencies out there that can assist them probably quicker than what a city organization can do. But yes, I do support funding of those programs.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
Yes, I would absolutely support and be in favor of programs that support a quality of life. I think those are essential to attracting new people to our area. But we have to make sure we are responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. And we're spending those monies in the right places. And, but I would absolutely be in favor of those. We just need to make sure we're spending the people's money correctly.
Thank you. Question number 4. If I can get it out. And Mr. Willinger, you'll go first on this question. What is your vision for Bristol in the coming year and 5 years down the road, and how do you see us getting there? Do you have a particular issue you would like to address, problem you would like to solve, or project you would like to implement? If so, please describe.
Yes, I do. I've spent 10 years with SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives, trying to help our entrepreneurs and small business owners grow their businesses or get started. And to me, what I want to champion more than anything is the outreach of helping the existing businesses that are already here and attracting the entrepreneurs and helping those entrepreneurs be able to start and grow. There are so many programs and resources available that can really help, and some of the reports that we've gotten say, hey, I don't know about those programs. Who can I talk to? Well, we're covered up in this region with resources, and I've spent years working with those programs and feel like we can really do something. If we get an entrepreneur started here, they stay here. If we can help a business grow, then if they become more profitable, then the wages become more attractive to their workers. So that's my big plan, is during my time as a city council person, that's my big focus, is helping what we already have grow and do better.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman?
Yes. In 5 years, I'd like to see Bristol further develop their industrial parks. We have 2 fantastic industrial parks, and they've been stagnant for quite some time. We're recently seeing more activity at the industrial park off 394, but I think that's sat for too long. We can redirect a lot of the TIF that we're currently using, has a huge attractor to manufacturing, and I think that's one way that we need to start.
Thank you. Mr. Luttrell?
In thinking of my view, thinking of my vision for the future of Bristol, Tennessee, I'm reminded of 2 legendary figures. They are Walt Disney. His quote was, "Do what you do so well that they will want to see it again and bring their friends." And the other is late great Roberto Clemente. Anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you're wasting your time on earth. With that, one of the things that I'd like to really see happen, and that we really get behind it, is, being able to have the children of this community to be able to find employment here. We don't want them leaving. We want to create the environment that wants them to stay. And, we have to start out by getting together with these children and these young people, find out what they like, what they want to do, because they're going to become our future leaders of this community. And so we've got to listen to them. And that's one thing that I hope, if I'm elected in the 4 years, that we're able to achieve.
Thank you. Mr. Turner?
Well, my vision is we have got to get a younger generation involved in our community, on our boards. all over our city. My vision is to see my daughter come back here after college. And we've got to keep the young people here, whether they're going into a trade out of high school or whether they come back here after college. But I think that that's going to be our future. We just have to have a younger generation involved.
Thank you, Mr. Vance.
Where do I see Bristol in the 5 and 10 years? I see Bristol with a stronger downtown, with the gas pedal staying on that. I see a city council that's working with our school board to develop a CTE program. I see a town where our youth get involved. I see a place where my little girl, when she graduates high school and decides I want to go into college or I want to learn a trade and I want to stay here. The future of Bristol, Tennessee is our youth. We've got to give our youth the opportunities to develop, if that's college, go to college, get a degree, or learn a trade. And in doing that, we're going to sit there and our city is going to continue to grow and we're going to become more successful as a city because our youth is staying. So I'm all for Bristol continuing to develop and finding a way for our children to stay home after they graduate or learn a trade that they would like to have.
Thank you. We'll go to question number 5. And Mr. Chapman, you'll go first this time. Many residents and visitors alike see Bristol as one community. Both cities share a name, resources, and work together on many economic and quality of life endeavors. What would your leadership role look like if elected to build a stronger relationship with Bristol, Virginia to achieve a stronger shared vision for the community?
Like, when a lot of people come to Bristol, they come for events. They come for the racetrack. They come for Rhythm and Roots. They come for the things that we can provide for them. That's really why we have visitors, because we have a lot to offer. We need to work more diligently with our sister city to make sure that we maintain the things that people want, the things that people are drawn here to. I'd like to see more cooperation between the two cities.
Thank you. Mr. Luttrell.
I think, together that both Bristol, Virginia and Bristol, Tennessee, we have to work together to create a culture of vibrancy in our downtown and actually across the entire city. We have to be able to share and exchange ideas. And, just because one side of the state line has something, it's not necessary that both sides has to have the same thing. I think we have to learn to be able to share in certain assets we have in
Bristol, Virginia, and come and work with them and listen to them and work with them the best that I can. But I also know that they've got to be held accountable for the things that they have to provide for on their side of town. So I am all for a great relationship with Bristol, Virginia, but they've got to be held accountable. And I'm also open to listening and being there for them.
Thank you. Mr. Willinger.
Well, we are Bristol, and for those of us that live here, we don't pay much. They didn't create it. It was created some time ago, and it's going to take a while for them to come back. But I'll promise you, they will come back. And Bristol, Tennessee was in a similar situation, 8, 10 years ago, something like that? And we need to hang in there together with them. I know each one of those people on city council, and they want to work with us, and our job is to be right there with them. Now, I agree with you that, we don't want our money going over there, but there's a lot of things that we can do together to help. Just, sometimes just moral support can go a long way in working